And these are kind of older pictures, but you know, you can kind of see over time that, like, you know, her interests have gone from me to other stuff. In this case, like, and she really does love shoes. And this is kind of the start of that. But you know, you kind of see her smile kind of getting bigger, her becoming more animated, and then becoming interested in the world around her, and the parent stops being kind of the center of their life, whether we like it or not. And this is Jack. Jack is, like I said, 2 now, and he's a mischievous little guy. You can't see it very well, but he's like absolutely covered in some jelly there. So the Act Early initiative is really designed to enhance collaboration among state systems that support children. Across the lifespan, but particularly kids birth to 5. And the idea was, like, you know, you have early childhood educators, you have Arizona Early Intervention Program, you have the Division of Developmental Disabilities, you have all these systems of care, and they don't always work very well together. Mm-hmm. So the idea was to help connect these groups, and so that's some of the work I do. But that can't happen unless people like you and me are, like, helping make sure families get to the right place. So why this is so important is 1 in 6 children has a behavioral or developmental disability. And you know, knowing more about that statistic, it kind of takes the pressure off parents to feel like, you know, they're responsible for it. You know, my son got the same kind of treatment as my daughter, the same environment, but they have different, you know, they have different kind of hardware essentially for interacting with their environment. And you know, so I don't feel so bad about it, and I know there's something that I can do. Developmental screening is one of the most important things that we can do. And are you all using the ASQ here, or have you heard of the ASQ before? Mm-hmm. So the ASQ is the Ages and Stages questionnaire. It's kind of similar to what you're going to be looking at today, but very formal and rigid. These tools are designed as a monitoring tool. So what they're designed to do is kind of on an ongoing basis, kind of referencing back to what a child should be doing, and kind of being able to check off boxes, you know, as you kind of get to know your kids and work with them more.
How's a lot of the pediatrician, well, they use the ASQ.
Oh, great.
And give it to parents.
Good. Yeah, and so a lot of organizations are using the ASQ. Some early learning centers are using it, but I don't necessarily feel like it's always appropriate for every early learning center. In fact, I think these materials are a little bit more easy to use, and they also honor the idea that you're engaging with these kids like 6 hours more a day, and you have tons of opportunities to observe them. Whereas the ASQ is like one time, what's happening right now. It's a snapshot. So in Arizona, the average age of diagnosis for kids with autism, and this is just my own kind of area of interest, is around 4.3 years. And the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends it at 3. So we're catching kids late, and the idea is if you can catch them earlier, then early intervention is going to be more successful. So kids with developmental delays have a number of kind of side effects. One is, like, they're going to probably have poor school performance. They're going to miss school more often. They're going to have other health problems. And a lot of times families don't have the opportunity to respond to make sure they're getting the help they need. The earlier services these kids get, and you know, my son included, you know, the better their chances are for, you know, living their potential. So I talked about screening just a moment ago, and these are some screening tools that people use. The ASQ, which is the Ages and Stages questionnaire. There's a couple others that are really a snapshot of what a kid's development looks like right now. Developmental monitoring is what we're talking about today. And it's about kind of tracking a child's growth and development over time as you get to know that child and interact with them and see how they're interacting in a school setting. So what we find when we start using materials like this with parents is they're more likely to seek out help. You know, 90% of them parents surveyed said it helps them kind of act early and not wait, and have them feel comfortable and confident in having a conversation with a pediatrician. And that's really important. That's compared to about 60% without using these tools. And so the book you have in front of you is one of those tools, and I'm also hoping to share with you some others. So as part of the push for parent engagement and enhanced parent engagement, these tools can potentially be a part of that, where it creates a foundation for a conversation, where it's not just, hey, I think there's something wrong with Billy. He's not, doing X or Y, and does he have an IFSP yet? Which is like an individualized service plan. There are other ways to approach it, and especially if you're partnered with your families, and you're talking about development in an ongoing way, not just like the bad things, but celebrating development, because it's amazing. It's amazing what kids can do. Then those difficult conversations are going to be easier to have. So we're going to start talking about features of typical development, and we're going to watch videos. We're going to practice using this tool here. It's pretty fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. I like doing it. It's kind of like you get to analyze kind of like what kids are doing and kind of figure out what boxes you can check here. Part of this presentation, sometimes if I had another hour, I would talk about autism specifically, but I'm going to skip over that today. I am, though, going to talk about how to encourage parents to seek help if you have concerns. And there's some research-based strategies that tend to make these conversations go a lot more easily and, ultimately more effectively. So probably heard this before, the two kind of competing ideas about what leads to child development and, developmental challenges. But, one is obviously genes, and genetics. I was talking about my son. I believe his hardware is a little bit different, if we were to make the computer analogy, than my daughter. But then there's like the nurture component as well. That's maybe how I interact with my son and daughter. But it could also be what they're exposed to in their environment. Is that environment like very iPad rich? Where kids are kind of put on TV babysitting, and by the way, I wouldn't judge anybody for that because I do that too. But or is it also full of rich parent interaction? Are kids exposed to like chemicals in their environment? Culture also plays an impact in development. So all these things kind of on the nurture side impact development as well, and that's probably where we're going to be most effective, right? You guys are the nurture. That's what this place is all about. And you're trying to work around, maybe what the nature that we can't control. So milestones are things that kids do every day. They're behaviors. And it's about how kids play, learn, speak, act, and moves. And we see them every day. Developmental milestones can be a signal to us about whether things are progressing the way they should. Developmental milestones can also be an indication of when things maybe aren't going the way that they should. So there's the existence of the milestone that we're seeing and observing every day, and then there's the absence of those behaviors. And in both cases, they should draw our attention, whether to celebrate or to kind of have a conversation about helping. So the CDC developed all these tools. One of them's in front of you, and we'll go over it in a minute. I'm going to also show you the website that they have all this stuff. It's all free. And it is awesome because it's available in like every language. I don't know kind of if most of the people that come to creations speak English.
Pretty much.
Okay. But sometimes you might interact with somebody who doesn't have that as their primary language. But it's translated in about 4 different languages, from like Vietnamese to Hmong. I don't know if you've heard of Hmong before, but I learned about that when somebody was like bragging about having these tools in Hmong. But they're all there, and they're free and easy to use. Another new kind of program is out that I really love, and I use this with my son and daughter. It's called this milestone tracker, and you get on the App Store and Android. It's really great because it has milestone checklists where like it shows videos or pictures of